Welcome back to Yoga by Paige. In today's practice, we're going to slow things down just a little bit. I'm going to offer you a yin class today where we start to connect to this vivid or loud that happens in our day-to-day lives and slowly sink down into these subtle nuances as we turn down the volume of the vividness and brightness and loudness that we encounter. So what you'll want for today's practice is to have a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you can roll up a couple of blankets. Pillow works as well, so long as you can kind of maybe get two of those together. I have a blanket handy, and then I also have 2 blocks handy. These will just be helpful in kind of creating comfort in the body as we are in these poses for longer holds. So if you are ready, we're actually just going to start with pigeon using the bolster on our back leg. So let's make sure the right leg is extended back. You'll grab your bolster here and align it on the right side of your mat so the long edge of the bolster is with the long edge of your mat. We'll use our hands here to help bring this right leg onto the bolster, right underneath this hip bone here. And just like a regular pigeon, you'll bring the left leg out in front of you. And the biggest difference here is that the heel might be more in towards the center of your body. That is a-okay. Then once you kind of situate yourself here, you may or may not want a block underneath your left sit bone here, so it's not hanging out in an uncomfortable way, but rather sustainably. And then you'll slowly lower yourself down onto your elbows, making any adjustments here to even out the hips. And perhaps you want to rest your head on a blanket or a block, something where you might be able to just rest down in here. So you're feeling a lot of support of the bolster underneath this right leg. And then this left sit bone is supported by a block if you'd like, or it can hang out in space. It's totally up to you here. And then so what you might start to notice here is that instant feedback the body begins to provide. So acknowledge that for what it's worth. That's really good information that the body provides us. It's good feedback. And it allows us to make informed decisions. So our yin practice is here so that we can start to connect to those deeper layers of tissue, getting into some of the belly of the muscles and seeing if we can actually lengthen out in the body here. So that's one of the reasons why we also have these longer holds in the body. So we haven't talked too much about our breath. Just find something that feels comfortable for you. You're not holding the breath, creating tension in the body, but you're using the breath as a tool to let go. So we'll just be here for a few more rounds of breath, allowing the body to become heavier and heavier on your surface here. Feeling some tension dissipate from the body as you slowly turn up the volume of these subtle sensations. Just letting the body drape down onto your props. Finding these moments of surrender. Tuning into those quiet pieces of feedback. The subtlety that lies underneath. We'll take just a couple more breaths here, feeling that settling sensation in the body. And then begin to deepen the breath. Feel a little bit of more effort come into the bones, into the tissue. Slowly start to walk your hands underneath the shoulders here so you can use the arms to help lift your head up off of the surface. If you used a block underneath your left hip, you can remove that block as well. And then gently roll off of your bolster or blankets there to sit in just a moment in Sukhasana, starting to feel this opening in the body, this shifting in the subtlety. This ability to connect deeper into the deepest layers of the body. And now we'll start to just set up here for this left side. You'll take your bolster just as you did before, but now you want it on the left side to prop up the left leg. There's that. And you can sneak the length of the left leg all the way onto this bolster now. And bringing your right leg out in front of you for a pretty traditional pigeon setup. And then if you use the block on that first side, kind of underneath the hip, feel free to add it here as well so that you don't feel like you have to hold, but rather you can rest. So you might have to find something that works there. And then lower down here onto the elbows. Orient the hips so that you feel nice and supported. And when you're ready here, you can rest your head down. It can be a block, or it can be your blankets, or even your hands, or the mat. Something where you can give way. You might notice that, yes, this side is louder. It does provide that vibrant feedback as you settle in to begin. And then slowly, though, using your breath, see if you might be able to move past these vivid sensations. It's almost like turning the volume down on the loud radio. And as soon as you start to turn the volume down of a loud radio, you're now able to hear the birds chirp or the ticking of the engine if you're in a car. Everything else suddenly becomes a little bit easier to tune into. It's one of the beautiful practices of yin yoga. You can cultivate this deeper connection. So as you are here, seeing if you might be able to rest in this stillness. Giving way to the props that are supporting you. So you can be here as effortlessly as possible. Getting heavier and quieter with each cycle of breath. You might even hit that fatigue point where you can drop a little bit deeper. Another layer of release occurs. Relaxing where you can. And we're here for just a few more breaths. And when you're ready, you'll slowly begin to press the elbows into the mat if they're on the ground. Slide the hands back near your shoulders so that you can use the hands to support you up and out of this. Remove the block underneath that right hip if you chose to include one. You can then sit over to one side, coming off of your bolster, and just press the bolster out of the way for a moment, coming into a comfortable seat, just for a second to feel the shift in the body. Feel this down regulation of the nervous system as you slow everything. And we'll prepare here for our next pose. We're going to come into dragon. So what we'll do for dragon is we'll actually use our blanket. So if you have a blanket that's similar to a yoga blanket, you'll unfold it a little bit and roll it up so you're creating a pretty tight roll there. So once you have your tight roll, place this up at the top of your mat, and we'll start with your right leg forward. So bringing this right leg forward here, press back into a little bit of a low lunge. Insert your roll right where your hip meets this thigh bone here, and we'll start to close this distance. So if you know you have sensitive knees, you can fold over the edge of your mat to prop up your knee. You could use your bolster if you like, or even another blanket. But once your knee is down on the mat, you're just gonna drop the pubic bone closer to the ground, closing this space here between your chest and your thigh. You'll reach the hands down. Perhaps you want blocks underneath the hands to bring the ground a little bit closer. And then we'll also let the chin rest down. So while you're here, you're just going to breathe into this space. Let the hips hang as heavy as you can let them. The arms are really just gentle kickstands or posts. And we'll start to get in here to the left hip flexors. Those will be the most vibrant and vivid sounds. You might even feel a little bit through the back of the right leg. Maybe you feel a little bit of vivid sensation through the belly with the roll. And acknowledge those. It's fair to acknowledge the sensations we're feeling, but remember, we're not staying there today. Instead, we're trying to move past that loudness, moving into the subtlety, the soft, quiet sensations, hitting these fatigue points within our muscle bellies, and then dropping in a little bit deeper. Using the breath here to help you let go. You might even notice that in some of these poses in our practice today that the body wants to fidget. I encourage you to stay in a place where you might feel discomfort and find stillness within that. Let that be the practice of moving past the vivid into the subtle. You might notice that some tension may build in other parts of the body. See if you can let that go as well. It's a pretty human reaction when we put stress in parts of one body. They sometimes show up in other areas. Just using the breath to move beyond that. And to come out of this here, slowly begin to peel your chin up off of your chest. You'll press your hands down into the mat or into your blocks to gently, gently, gently shift the hips back. Place your hands to the ground. You may straighten out this front leg to remove the roll. And if it's comfortable here for you, you can just sit back on the knees or just find a comfortable seat for a moment. Feeling a little bit of constructive rest. Tapping into the differences here from side to side, beginning to immediately feel the effects of our practice. When you're ready here, we'll just step into our second side. So you'll shift forward, bring your left leg forward this time, planting that left foot down on the mat. You'll start to wrap this roll up again if it came unrolled while you were transitioning. Hug this roll up into where the belly meets the thigh here and shift forward, setting up for our second side of dragon. So taking any measurements you need here to protect your right knee, drop your pubic bone down towards the ground, maybe use those blocks under your hands, the arms or kickstands here, and start to send the pubic bone lower and lower, releasing here. Once you find a place that feels comfortable and sustainable for your body, go ahead and begin to drop the chin down towards your chest. Let the head hang heavy. Feeling this sea of gravity just lay over the entire backside of your body. And once more, acknowledge the loud sensations that are coming up. Give them their worthy airtime. You might even offer a moment of gratitude for the sensations that arise. And then begin to turn the volume of those loud sensations down. Moving past that so that you might be able to drop in. Feel this stillness settle into the body. This sense of letting go and ease. Even as you move beyond that point of fatigue. Allowing the body to transition. Feeling that quietness begin to nourish the body. Dropping further and further where you can. Allowing this subtlety to help you release tension, to release any ideas of what things should feel or look like. And you'll begin here to press into your hands. Pull the chin up off of your chest and then just shift the hips back ever so slowly. You can gently back off of that right hip flexor. And once you're done here, you can remove that roll and sit back into a seat that feels good for you. Taking a moment of pause, feeling this balance now from side to side. All right, yogis. We'll move into now more of a supported reclined position, coming into a pose called saddle. So you might want to refold your blanket and just have it nice and handy. We'll then go ahead and reintroduce our bolster here at the back of the mat. And you might want to bring along a block, something that you can rest your head on, or if you have another blanket that works really well. I'm just going to use the one that I have here. I'm going to place that over the block just so it is a little bit softer, and then move my second block out of the way. So with saddle, it's similar to child's pose, where your big toes come to touch at the back. And then you're going to open your knees about the width of your mat here, and then feel the back of the bolster snuggle up against your lower back. And now we'll use the hands to slowly ease our way back until you feel your back is supported by the bolster, and you might have to adjust your block there, your pillow, so you can rest in. So for some of us, the quads might be particularly tight, and you might need a few more props just to elevate your chest. The higher you can keep your chest, the more accessible this will be if your quads are particularly tight. Remembering you can use 2 bolsters or multiple blocks and blankets. You can even insert a blanket behind the knees. And then once you are able to situate yourself here on your props, go ahead and open the arms out gently into any degree that feels good for your body. And then with your next exhale, see if you can settle in here. Feel the length through the spine, the heaviness of your hips. Let the back of the head drop into your support. And see here, we tend to hold a lot of tension in our quads. See if you can move past that vivid sensation. Acknowledging it, feeling it around the knees and maybe up at the tops of the thighs. And then might you be able to dig in a little bit deeper? What other sensations are arising for you? Dropping into those subtleties, the nuances. Trusting that your body is supported. Letting go, feeling that stillness nourish the body. Begin to deepen the breath. You'll slide the hands underneath you here so that you can curl your chin into your chest. Use the arms to help either roll over to one side, coming out of this, or curl up. You can sit to one side to bring the legs out in front of you. Pausing for just a moment here as you feel this flood of blood come back into the legs. And we'll start to wind down our practice today, setting up for a gentle twist. So you can keep your bolster behind you with the blocks and the pillow or the blanket, whatever you've got. Or you can maybe remove your block and kind of situate yourself there. So we're going to turn to the right, where you can snuggle up the right edge of your hip in line with this bolster. And I'll give you two options for legs. You can stack both knees, or you can find stag legs. So stag legs is just 290 degrees with the knees here. And then we're going to orient our chest so that it is turned towards your bolster, trying to square the chest off towards the bolster. And then once you feel all of this connection, you can slowly start to walk yourself out to your elbows. And then a slightly less intense option is to keep the right ear down on the bolster and then dropping both elbows down into the ground equally. Or if you want something slightly deeper, you can actually pick up and turn over to the other cheek. Just choose an option here that feels best for your body, that will help you to release. And the vividness in this version of the pose might not be quite as loud as some of our other postures today, but you might still have some louder portions of the body that are giving you feedback. Just note what those are. Make any micro adjustments before settling into this stillness. And then see where you can drop into that subtlety. Allow the body to be heavy as you drape your torso over the bolster, feeling any tension dissipate from the upper back and neck. Noticing that nourishment through the spine, just imbibing that we can create through the entire length of our spine with a twist. Begin to deepen that breath. You slowly start to slide those hands back near your shoulders, using your hands to support you as you peel your chest up off of your bolster, gently unwinding to face the front edge of your mat, coming into this constructive rest with the cross-leg seat. Feeling that difference side to side. And then we'll set up here for that second side, turning to the left. You'll snuggle your left hip up against your bolster here. And remember, if you kept the knees stacked last time, they can be stacked again. Or you can find that stag leg version where you have 290 degrees with both knees. Well, you'll orient your chest so that it is squared off over your bolster. And then slowly begin to lower all the way down. Remember, now that we're facing the left side, you can drop the left ear down to the bolster. Or if you want something deeper and you did on the first side, you can plant the right ear down to your bolster. And then just drop in here, noticing those vivid sensations once more. See where you can let go. surrender, and potentially find that stillness a little bit faster on this side. Feel the differences from side to side in the body. And notice the subtlety with the breath, the rising and falling of the rib cage. Allowing the body to be cared for, renewed. Continuing to let go where you're holding tension, allowing yourself to drop in deeper.